Good day, everybody. I'm Priyanshu, and today we will learn about food. And by the way, welcome to our channel. Now, basically, let's see what is food. Okay, what is food? Food, as we know, is a very important necessary for our life. Without food, we cannot live. It can be digested and it provides us energy. I will cover the next part in module 2. Okay, so where do we get food? We get food from plant and animal sources as well as various other sources. Plant sources, as they give out glucose and they form starch. That is why we get starches and oils from plant sources, while animal sources yield proteinaceous food like meat, fish, honey, and eggs. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now what are plant sources? Plant sources can give us food from seeds, fruits, roots, stems, leaves, and flowers. Okay, good to go. And now let us understand how do we get seeds. Okay, seeds, as we know, are the reproductive parts of the plant. From seeds, there grow a lot of mini plants. As they contain the nutrients required for the growth of the plants, they are good sources. For example, rice, legumes, and oils. For example, sunflower seeds. We get sunflower oil. Okay, then fruits. We have many delectable fruits like papayas, oranges, and mangoes. Roots. Roots of some plant parts store food like carrots and radishes. Now stems. We often eat the stems of quite a lot of plants. They are mainly made of cellulose. Cellulose actually is a form of a complex sugar. And now for only your information, let me give you the formula of glucose. Glucose is a carbohydrate which we will cover later. So its basic formula is C6H12O6. So basically the formula of glucose is C6H12O6. And it basically represents 6 atoms of carbon, 12 atoms of hydrogen, and 6 atoms of oxygen. Now we are good to go. Animal sources. Now you must be wondering that where do we get the meat, fish, milk, and chicken that we eat? If you are a vegetarian, I am sorry to hurt your feelings, but we need to study this in the chapter. We get animal sources from foods like eggs and red meat from animals. So simple, right? So animals like hens provide us eggs. We get red meat from cows, pigs, and goats. We get white meat, namely chicken and fish, from hens. And fish is fish. We get cheese, butter, clarified butter, that is ghee, as we know, from cows. Good to go. Other sources. There are, besides animal and plant sources, other sources of food like mushrooms and then algae like spirulina are eaten. We also eat a lot of fermented foods which are made by ambient bacteria and fungi. Examples of fermented foods include kimchi, kombucha, yogurt, and cheese. There are inorganic substances too, like baking soda, which we use to preserve or bake food. Now, there are some organisms. Organisms are classified according to the type of their food. Okay. Now, autotrophs. What are autotrophs? We know that autotrophs are organisms which prepare their own food. The key word is autotrophs prepare their own food. Mostly it is green plants because they have a certain thing called chlorophyll. It is a pigment which we will cover in another chapter. Pigment chlorophyll helps the plant to make its food by photosynthesis. Now, heterotrophs. What are heterotrophs? Heterotrophs are basically organisms which do not prepare their own food. That is, they depend on plants directly or other animals for obtaining their food. Some of these include all non-green organisms. Okay, now we must underline this part. Organisms which do not make their own food. I'm sorry for that curve there. No problem. Let's go. Components of food and the nutrients. Basically, what are the components of food? Food must be made of something, huh? Okay. So, the foods are made of nutrients. What are nutrients? Nutrients are the chemicals that are present in food that help to provide number one, energy, number two, immunity, and number three, build new cells. So let me highlight this part over here. They provide cellular energy, they strengthen the immune system, and they build new cells. Okay, now let's understand. You must remember these numbers 5 and 2. There are 5 main nutrients in food and 2 other components. Let's name these. 5 are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. The 2 other components are water and roughage. Okay, let's go. Nutrients are actually classed into macro and micronutrients. Macro, as we know, means big, and micro, as we know, means small. Okay, macronutrients are basically the type of nutrients that are required in larger amounts by our body, as it is named, and micronutrients are actually required in comparatively smaller amounts by our body. So we must understand this part that macronutrients larger amount, micronutrients smaller amount. Good, good to go. And now let's understand the macronutrients. They include carbohydrates, proteins, and fats because they are the main components of our body. And then micronutrients include vitamins and minerals because they are only required in lesser amounts. Good. Now let's go to carbohydrates. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates, as you can branch from the name, consist of carbo, hydra, and s. Good. Carbohydrates are carbohydrates. What is hydrate? Hydrate means basically a thing which is made of water. Water, as we know, has a formula called H2O. H hydrogen, O oxygen. Therefore, carbohydrates are made of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. It is integral that you remember these components. Good. Now, let's see what are carbohydrates. For example, today I ate a cookie, and I think you will eat a cake. Good. Whenever we eat that cookie or cake, when we taste the thing, we see that it is sweet. So, what is sweet? Sweetness is a feeling that is formed by the digestion of carbohydrates. That is why they produce the bulk of what we eat. If you live in Bengal or any other part of the world where rice is majoritarily eaten, you will see that when you chew rice for a long time, you will see that it feels sweet after some period of time. That is why, because our saliva, which is the liquidy, watery thing that we have, consists of a particle called amylase. This amylase is what digests the carbohydrate starch, a complex carbohydrate present in food, and converts it to maltose. Good. Let me spell out amylase for you. It's AMylase. Good to go. Amylase. Okay. And then let's understand sugars. What are sugars? What are sugars? As it's written here, sugars are the simplest form of carbohydrates. Okay. As we know, there are carbohydrates and molecules are made of atoms. So if a lot of molecules make a substance, it is type of complex. That is why sugars are the simplest form of carbohydrates because they are comparatively simpler than complex carbohydrates. Okay. Most sugars include glucose, which is the simplest form. I gave you the formula before. Try to remember it. Fructose and maltose. They are simpler forms of sugar. Okay. So let me ask you a question. You must think of it. Why are athletes provided Glucon-D or glucose water when they have come running from a lot of distance? Why? It is because glucose is C6H12O6. It can be easily used by our cells to generate energy. That is why athletes are given glucose for strengthening their body. Okay, let's understand starch. Starch, as we know, is a complex carbohydrate formed by many molecules of sugars. It is produced by the plants and stored. Potatoes, rice, corn, and wheat are always the rich sources of starch. Okay, let's go. Carbohydrate. Yippee, we have an experiment. Just a minute, let me switch off my video so that you can see the test tubes. Okay, so let's see. Materials required in this experiment. One thing you should know that you should always write an experiment in this manner. Only the first part that you will write is materials required and then procedure and then observation. You will then write observation so that the experiment will become a type of exam like. I've not written observation. Sorry for that. Materials required. Okay. We always require a Bunsen burner in any of the experiments mostly that we see. A food sample, some Benedict solution, test tube, and water. Okay. Procedure. First, the food sample is taken, crushed, and put in the test tube, and then it is mixed with some water and shaken well. The Benedict solution is added. It is actually, you will see, a bluish cyan-like color, and then it is heated over the burner. Then, if the sample contains glucose, the sample will turn somewhat orangish. Magic. Now, let's go to starch. Experiments for starch. Okay, so the first things that you require over here are the iodine solution, potato slice, dropper, and a petri dish. That's optional. Okay, the potato slice is first cut and taken, and then 2 to 3 drops of iodine are poured on the potato once it is on the petri dish. After that, we will see that the potato becomes bluish black because it is starch that is present in the potato that reacts with the iodine solution. Iodine, as you will see in your chemistry lab, that it's brownish in color. Protein, the all-important component of our body. Let's see, what are proteins? Protein, protein, odd name, but very simple to understand. Proteins are made of amino acids. Don't let the name scare you, huh? Proteins are actually formed by chains of amino acids. These chains are somewhat like this. Let me draw it out for you. Like this. Let's call this amino chain 1 and let's call this amino chain 2. So proteins are nothing but basically a mixture of these amino acids. So they are the all important component. You must have noticed that why have I said all important? It is because proteins are important as they make up our body. Plants' bodies are made by cellulose and animal bodies are made by proteins. When we intake protein-rich food provides us amino acids upon digestion. So they make up our muscles, cells and help to increase the cytoplasm. We obtain most of the proteins from animal sources and pulses from plant sources also. We obtain uh, proteins from meat, pulses, fish eggs and most animals. Let's go. Another experiment this time. This time is a bit tough but not too tough to understand. Okay, the materials required here are two test tubes, caustic soda, copper sulfate, a food sample, some water and a burner. First, the food sample is crushed and put in a test tube. Number two, then some caustic soda. Let me tell you its chemical formula. It's NaOH. Na is basically sodium and OH is basically hydroxide. So NaOH is a basic substance. Forget what I said. So the caustic soda is poured and then the food is stirred. Then some copper sulfate is added and the concoction is heated over the burner. The sample turns somewhat violetish in color. It is because the food sample contains protein. Good. Now let's go to vitamins. Vitamins are actually micronutrients that are essential for protecting our body from any form of disease. It keeps our eyes, gums, bones, and teeth healthy. Okay. Now, an amazing thing is about to come. A list of vitamins. My God, so big a list. So big list. So, let me highlight them for you. Okay. The vitamins here are vitamins A, D, C, K, B1, B2, B3, and B12. But why are there a B1, B2, B3 and B12? Now let's understand this. This group of vitamins is called the vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex includes B1, B2, B3, B12 and many others. Let's now understand the function of each vitamin, their sources and the deficiency disease. Okay, so first on our list is vitamin A. Vitamin A is sourced from tomatoes, mangoes, eggs, and spinach. It keeps the retina of our eyes, hair, and skin healthy. Deficiency disease includes night blindness, in which the patient actually cannot see well in the night, and it creates poor resistance to the diseases. Now, vitamin D. Vitamin D consists of spinach, milk, and butter and other milk products. They keep our gums and teeth healthy. They also help to build strong bones. And then the rickets in children, caused by pigeon-like legs, bending of arms and bones, and they cause softening of bones in adults. Now, let's do vitamin C. Vitamin C is obtained from fruits, mostly fruits, like oranges, lemons, and gooseberries. These are mostly citrus fruits because they contain small forms of citric acid. Citric acid is similar to ascorbic acid, which is another name of vitamin C. Both of them are actually organic acids because they contain COOH, that is carbon, oxygen and hydrogen. We will discuss about it in the chemistry module. Now, let's go to function. Vitamin C's main function is keeping the gums and the joints healthy because they prevent infection. And the deficiency disease is called scurvy. Scurvy is a very bad form of disease caused by deficiency of vitamin C. Let me tell you a story because a story is the best way to learn. Once upon a time there lived a captain of a ship. Then he went to sail to the ocean. He saw that after sailing to the ocean, there was an absence of fresh food. Okay, there were no lemons and no oranges and no fresh vegetables nor any fresh fruit. And then the sailors began to fall in. There was luckily a doctor on board. Since it was the time of Louis Pasteur, he discovered the bacteria by the way and their functioning. He also tried to protect milk from putrefaction. Good. Now let's go forward with the story. One by one the sailors began to fall ill. The doctor began to understand their symptoms. He saw that the gums were becoming putrefied. That is, they were becoming rotten type of. The body was becoming rotten. He then thought that it would be prudent to set them on a diet of acids. Somebody had oranges and lemons from a nearby store added because when a person sails on the ocean, they can stop at many points, at many continents. Luckily, there were a few orange and citric fruit stores, and another person was kept on a diet of vinegar, seawater, and amazingly, one person was kept on a diet of apple cider. Okay, so the persons kept on the diet of orange and lemons had their scurvy cured and they were back to work. So the doctor understood that vitamin C is the chemical, the main game which prevents the putrefaction of teeth. Okay, so basically what scurvy causes is the rotting of gums and the weakening of teeth. Now let's go to vitamin K. K, K, K. Vitamin K is obtained from spinach and leafy vegetables, from mustard leaves, etc. We Bengalis eat leaves a lot, although they can't be digested by our system. Vitamin K, its function basically is help to produce platelets. Platelets are small cells. They help to clot blood. Good. Deficiency disease when a person gets injured. For example, King Leopold. No, sorry, Prince Leopold. He was a prince in England who had a very less amount of platelets. He died of internal bleeding. What is internal bleeding? When a blood vessel ruptures and gives out a lot of blood. Lot of blood is flowing inside our body. It is called internal bleeding. Internal bleeding is quite difficult to stop, and on top of that, the Prince Leopold did not have much platelets. So platelets or thrombocytes are the cells that prevent bleeding. So vitamin K helps to produce platelets, and if there are no vitamin K, platelets can't be produced. Okay. Then let's go to vitamin B1. B1, the first vitamin of the vitamin B complex. We obtain vitamin B1 from eggs, whole wheat, and milk. Milk is the all game. Now let's understand eggs, whole wheat, etc. Huh. What is the proper function of the digestive and the nervous system? We have a deficiency disease called beriberi. Vitamin B2, they obtain it from beans, peas and eggs. They keep the skin and the mouth healthy. They also, the deficiency disease here is reduced frozen sore in mouth. And now you may do these two on your own accord. And you may pause the video here. Minerals. Minerals are basically the inorganic compounds which are important macronutrients for the body. They're essential for the proper function of our body parts. And this is the list of minerals. You may now stop the video and see this list or copy it down and memorize. Thank you.